southeast for the time being, but that eventually eases away. And another weather front brings some fairly hefty showers across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England, and these showers will be falling as snow above 200, 300, 400 metres, accumulating snow for the Grampians above 400 metres, with some more persistent rain and sleet in the northeast of Scotland. Feeling cold here with a strong wind for northern areas, and that wind reaching gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour for southeast Scotland, the central lowlands, before the strongest winds transfer down the east coast overnight, perhaps affecting East Anglia by midnight. So local gales in the east, but clearing skies elsewhere. And under those clearer skies, with winds easing away from the east, a widespread frost. Temperatures in some locations, for example, for some snow-covered parts of Scotland, down to -5 or even -10 in some of the colder spots. But a bright start to Friday morning. Plenty of sunshine first thing, despite the chill in the air. 1 or 2 further showers for northwest England, I should say, for northern and western Scotland as well. But they ease later. It turns cloudier in the west through the day. But for the vast majority, well, 8 or 9 Celsius with lighter winds, feeling pleasant enough. Now into Friday evening, and you can see rain starting to move into Northern Ireland, Western Scotland as well, turning to snow above 200 or 300 metres initially, and that rain accompanied by stronger winds. And that sets the theme for the weekend. At first, it's going to be wet and windy in the northwest, a drier start in the south, but the wind and rain reaches all parts later.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
A very good afternoon. Welcome to the briefing with me, Darren McCaffrey. Lots coming up over the next hour between 12 and 1 here on GB News, including the Prime Minister in Brussels today with the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer presenting a united front to Russia over Ukraine. We'll have the latest on the situation as the UK prepares to send 1,000 troops to the region. Also at home, Boris Johnson and 50 others will be questioned in a questionnaire by the police over parties at Downing Street. We'll be speaking to the Conservative MP, Peter Bone, about whether the Prime Minister is safe from a leadership challenge and how. If you've had a loved one with dementia, you'll know what a cruel and horrific disease it is. We'll be talking to the Labour MP, Debbie Abrahams, about the urgent need for more funding for research. She's leading a debate on Parliament on this today. And we'll be talking about Hong Kong as well. An amendment that could give under 25s, the right to claim asylum here. Is it a good idea? Is it a good policy? Is it one that you support? As always, do get in touch with your views and opinions. You can email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet me at gbnews. Jam-packed programme over the next hour. Very good afternoon and welcome to it. But first, just after 12, is the news.
Good afternoon. It's just gone midday. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister says what's happening with Ukraine is the biggest security crisis Europe has faced for decades. Speaking with the NATO Secretary-General in Brussels, Boris Johnson said it's not impossible something disastrous could happen very soon. The Prime Minister's flying to Poland next to reassure Eastern Europe that Britain's commitment to their security is unconditional.
We have the biggest defence budget in Europe and the second largest in NATO. We've contributed more troops than any other ally to NATO's enhanced forward presence. And today I've agreed with the Secretary-General a package of support to strengthen further our collective security, sending troops, planes and ships to defend NATO from north to south.
Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is holding a news conference in Moscow with Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. She's urged Russia to stick by its commitments and follow a diplomatic route to ease Ukraine tensions.
I'm here in Moscow today is that Russia has a very clear choice. They can pursue the path of diplomacy, work with NATO to improve European security, or continue down the path that they have been indicating by amassing troops on the border in a threatening way.
The Prime Minister says he won't quit if he's fined by police over alleged lockdown-breaking events. Former Prime Minister Sir John Major, meanwhile, has accused Boris Johnson of breaking the law and making the government look distinctly shifty. It's after a new photo emerged in the Daily Mirror, reportedly showing the Prime Minister at a quiz night with an open bottle of sparkling wine. Sir John says Mr Johnson's brazen excuses are undermining public trust in the government.
Our democracy is a fragile structure. It is not an impenetrable fortress. It can fall if no one challenges what is wrong or does not fight for what is right. The protection of democracy depends upon Parliament and the government upholding the values we have as individuals and the trust we inspire as a nation.
A record number of people waited more than 12 hours in A&E in January. According to figures from NHS England, more than 16,500 people were kept waiting for more than half a day. Those waiting to start routine hospital treatment also rose to a record high of over 6 million. A children's charity believes the safety of young people could be at risk under the government's health and care bill. The NSPCC says the proposed changes to NHS structures could destabilise safeguarding partnerships and result in a loss of experienced staff. It's calling for the new care boards to publish child protection plans before taking over safeguarding duties. At least 35,000 healthy pigs have had to be culled because of a shortage of butchers. The National Pig Association says more than 200,000 other pigs are being held on farms, even though they're ready for processing. They're calling on the government to make it easier for foreign butchers to get visas and for financial support for the worst affected farmers. AstraZeneca made £3 billion from sales of COVID jabs last year, but isn't making a profit from it. The drugs giant has set up a department to focus on new treatments for COVID and other respiratory diseases. It forecasts that coronavirus revenues will decline this year. A powerful drug combination for breast cancer could save 10,000 lives every year. That's according to a new study. Research has found that if a drug called Keytruda is given in combination with chemotherapy, it can reduce the chance of the disease coming back. Patients given the treatment had 37% fewer recurrences of cancer. And Prince William has told children in Abu Dhabi they are the future in the fight against climate change. The prince has been planting mangrove trees with the children. The future king also met the son of the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Khaled, to discuss protecting the country's wetlands. Studies suggest that mangroves capture 4 times more carbon than rainforests. And in the last few minutes, Clarence House has confirmed Prince Charles has tested positive with COVID. This is GB News. We'll bring you more on that and the rest of the news in half an hour. But for now, let's return to the briefing with Darren McCaffrey.
Yeah, indeed. That news just coming in. Prince Charles testing positive for COVID. He's self-isolating apparently at Clarence House. He was due in Winchester this morning on a visit, but this is the second time, of course, the heir to the throne has tested positive. He tested positive in the first wave of the pandemic, but he is isolating at Clarence House. We'll have more on that story, of course, as it happens here on GB News. Let's move away, though, to the big international story today, and that is, of course, Ukraine. Boris Johnson has said that Europe is facing its biggest security crisis in decades, adding that the stakes are very high over Ukraine. This is the attempt to de-escalate tensions with Russia. The Prime Minister was speaking alongside the Secretary-General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, on a trip to Brussels to shore up Western support towards Moscow's aggression. He indicated further support from the military could be offered to Ukraine should Russia invade. And earlier, the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, said an additional 1,000 British troops would be sent to Eastern Europe. Our security and Home Affairs editor Mark White has the very latest.
Training for urban warfare. These are some of the 250 British troops currently stationed in Poland. They'll soon be joined by another 350 Royal Marines who are preparing to head out to Poland in the days ahead. In nearby Estonia, the UK plans to double the 900 British troops here, as well as sending more Typhoon fighter aircraft to Romania. And Royal Navy ships are going to both Norway and the Eastern Mediterranean. It is a British show of solidarity with its allies in the region, as Russia shows no sign of reducing its military build-up on the border with Ukraine. Boris Johnson has taken that message to NATO in Brussels before meeting allies in Poland.
Our intelligence, I'm afraid to say, remains grim, and we're seeing the massing of huge numbers of tactical battalion groups, tactical groups on the borders of Ukraine, 70 or more. This is probably the most dangerous moment, I would say, in the course of the next few days, in what is the biggest security crisis that Europe has faced for decades. And we've got to get it right.
In Moscow, the UK Foreign and Defence Secretaries are pushing on the diplomatic front. The UK's former Chief of the General Staff said despite the continued Russian military build-up, he's confident a diplomatic solution will be found.
I believe this was always a situation where Putin was going to assemble force, he was going to intimidate, he was going to bully, he was going to threaten, and he's actually in a much stronger position like that. If he moves in, the Ukrainians will fight, the body bags will flow back to Russia, and he will be in a Chechnya, Georgia type situation.
More Russian naval forces are continuing their transit towards the Black Sea, despite claims by the French president that he'd secured assurances from Vladimir Putin that there would be no further military escalation, claims rejected by the Kremlin.
For the British government, there is a tricky balance to be struck. Yes, of course, keep up the diplomacy, hence the Foreign and Defence Secretary's visits to Moscow. But they also don't want to be seen to be rewarding Russian aggression. That's why this visit to Poland by the Prime Minister is seen as vital in offering full support to understandably nervous allies in the region.
as Russia continues with what it claims are scheduled military manoeuvres. Ukraine today begins its own large-scale exercises along its eastern border. With so much in the way of rival firepower within sight of each other, the risk of miscalculation is ever present. Mark White, GB News.
Yeah, and of course, the Prime Minister has been in Brussels this morning, meeting with with the NATO Secretary General, going to travel to Warsaw this afternoon. Liz Truss is in Moscow, meeting her counterpart, Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, due in Moscow tomorrow. Joining me in the studio to discuss all of this and more is the Conservative MP, Peter Bone. Peter, first of all, Lord Dannett there suggesting that he doesn't think war still is likely. Is there a circumstance here where we might be playing into Vladimir Putin's hands with President Macron travelling to Moscow, the military build-up, that he is getting the attention and to a degree some of the concessions he wants?
Well, I think he gets the attention by putting all those troops on the border. And when you start building military field hospitals, it seems more than an exercise. It seems like they're deadly serious. So I think it's quite right that the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary and Defence Secretary do as much talking as they possibly can to try and stop it happening, this invasion. But, I mean, I know Parliament is ready to be recalled next week because they think it's that imminent a possibility.
Do you think the UK could be going further, though? I mean, at the end of the day, we're diplomatically trying to prevent an invasion that, frankly, will be the decision of Vladimir Putin's. I don't know how much sway we have. I mean, is there anything more militarily we could be doing to try and deter this from happening?
Well, we're the biggest supporter of NATO in Europe, second biggest other than the Americans. Prime Minister Day has committed more troops to NATO, and it seems to me that perhaps some of the other European countries should be stepping up to the plate, and particularly Germany.
Germany's got this kind of slightly, from our perspective, kind of odd position, doesn't it, where it doesn't seem to be taking as hard a line as Britain or indeed other European allies and the United States. Why do you think that is?
Well, they've got this problem with the energy supply linked to Russia, and they almost, in a way, appear to be certainly not being strong enough on Russia and almost being a sort of satellite nation or influenced by Russia, which probably tells you that you need to have your energy supply sorted out. I find it very strange. I mean, I'm old enough to grow up in the period when we used to worry about this daily. We used to worry about, is there going to be a war in nuclear? Is there going to be a nuclear war or whatever? That's gone away. The Cold War has gone away. It seems to have come back now.
Has it, though? Are we slightly over-egging this? Russia's invaded Georgia. It's annexed Crimea. It's essentially in charge of large parts of eastern Ukraine as it is. Prime Minister saying this is the greatest potential threat of war in Europe in half a century. Are we talking this up almost?
I don't think so, because you've proved the point, haven't you? These things have been allowed to go unchallenged, and there will
But no one was talking about when Crimea was annexed or the Donbass region that we were in that circumstance.
So it all builds up. And, if you looked up to what happened before, in fact, the Second World War, there were a lot of incidents before that. This may be a reflection on what the American president did in Afghanistan, and maybe the Russians think that they can threaten and take control that way because the Americans pulled out of Afghanistan overnight.
Let's move on because you're former leader and Prime Minister John Major. Sir John Major has been speaking this morning, saying that Boris Johnson and his officials broke lockdown laws over the parties in Downing Street, adding that this outright lie breeds contempt. Do you agree?
I don't agree with much of what John Major says, and I think those are appalling comments. He is prejudging a police investigation. He has said somebody is guilty, and we don't even know if there was a crime involved or if anyone's going to be charged with anything. It is extraordinary that a former Prime Minister should do this. The bitterness that John Major has.
Well, we know there were parties in Downing Street.
Well,
I mean, so James Slack, who attended one of these parties, is now deputy editor of The Sun, but was the Prime Minister's former director of communications, has apologised for attending a party. Now, I bet the Prime Minister wasn't at, but we know...
That's it.
No, but there were parties in Downing Street.
Yes, but that's the point. He wasn't there, the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister has apologised for what happened in Downing Street. But so far, nobody has been able to produce any evidence to prove that he was at a party. So for John Major to say he's broken the law, well, surely this, his hatred for Boris is so much that he's going to prejudge a police investigation. I'm afraid John Major is completely out of order with those remarks.
The Prime Minister asked again this morning repeatedly if he would resign if he was handed a fixed penalty notice, essentially if the police had judged that he had attended one of these parties illegally. I mean, do you think that's the threshold for a resigning matter?
No, I don't actually. I think we have to wait for the report and we shall all make our judgment. But wasn't a question put to him at NATO when he was talking about Ukraine and this, what would happen if you get a fixed penalty notice? I mean, have some people in the media gone mad? I mean, that's completely irrelevant. I mean, I've done hours and hours of canvassing in the last 3 weeks in Northamptonshire, and people bring up issues on the doorstep. They bring up Ukraine. They bring up the cost of living. They bring up the immigration of small boats coming across the channel. They don't bring up whether there was a party in Downing Street. Now, if you hate Boris, if you're a sort of dyed-in-the-wool Labour supporter, yes, of course, they shout it at you from the doorstep. But the average person is concerned about other issues. Fancy bringing that question up at a NATO summit to discuss it.
We live in a country with a free press, and they're allowed to ask as many questions as they want.
Would you have asked that question?
And I think you're also allowed to criticise the press, and that's how we live. And I'm sure they will answer their own questions in time. Just on this though, but you are saying if the Prime Minister is found to have broken the rules that he himself imposed on everyone else.
I think I said we'll wait and see what.
Well, you said you don't think he should resign, though.
I didn't say just because he gets a fixed penalty note, because we don't know what the circumstances are. Let's wait for. Now, look, I think Sue Gray's report should be published now. I see no reason to delay. We should not be in this situation where we have to wait weeks for this because it just seems to be totally. It's much more important that we get this out and get this thing done with. Let's, have that report. Let's look at what it says and then make our decision. I think prejudging it is really wrong.
Just for one final question on another really important topic, this national insurance rise, start of April. Is it the wrong tax at the wrong time?
It's the wrong tax at the wrong time, there's no question. I've opposed it, and it seems to me it's not what Conservatives do. It's something that I would like the government to postpone. The Chancellor is very keen on having it, but let's see if we can... The Conservative...
Is the Prime Minister keen on having it?
I'm not so sure he is. My view is that the Conservative way forward is not to raise taxes, is to keep taxes down and grow the economy. That's what we should be doing. We should be putting taxes on jobs, which is what NIC does, is a Labour way, it's not a Conservative way.
OK, Peter Bone, as always, thank you very much indeed for joining us in the studio, Conservative MP there. Peter Bone. We're on GB News. It is 18 minutes past 12. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to be talking about Hong Kong. We've got an interview with the Labour MP, Khalid Mahmood, and also focusing on the issue of dementia. That and a lot more in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's bring you up to date with the latest weather on this Thursday afternoon.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News forecast. I'm Aidan McGiven. Windy day in the north and showery as well, but drier, brighter weather in the south. Feeling cold for all of us, certainly a contrast for southern areas with this cold front moving through. It is still bringing some cloud and outbreaks of light rain and drizzle to the far southeast for the time being, but that eventually eases away. And another weather front brings some fairly hefty showers across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England, and these showers will be falling as snow above 400 metres, accumulating snow for the Grampians above 400 metres, with some more persistent rain and sleet in the northeast of Scotland. Feeling cold here with a strong wind for northern areas, and that wind reaching gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour for southeast Scotland, the central lowlands, before the strongest winds transfer down the east coast overnight, perhaps affecting East Anglia by midnight. So local gales in the east, but clearing skies elsewhere. And under those clearer skies, with winds easing away from the east, a widespread frost. Temperatures in some locations, for example, for some snow-covered parts of Scotland, down to -5 or even -10 in some of the colder spots. But a bright start to Friday morning. Plenty of sunshine first thing, despite the chill in the air. 1 or 2 further showers for northwest England, I should say, for northern and western Scotland as well. But they ease later. It turns cloudier in the west through the day. But for the vast majority, well, 8 or 9 Celsius with lighter winds, feeling pleasant enough. Now into Friday evening, and you can see rain starting to move into Northern Ireland, western Scotland as well, turning to snow above 200 or 300 metres initially, and that rain accompanied by stronger winds. And that sets the theme for the weekend. At first, it's going to be wet and windy in the northwest, a drier start in the south, but the wind and rain reaches all parts later.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very welcome back to the briefing on GB News with me, Darren McCaffrey. 23 minutes past 12. GB Views at gbnews.uk, or indeed tweet us at GB News on any of today's stories. Keen to hear your thoughts. Do get in touch, and we'll get to some of those later on in the programme. Now, we all know someone with dementia, don't we? 850,000 people have the condition in the UK, and it's one of our biggest killers. There is currently, of course, no cure. Well, Debbie Abrahams is the Labour MP for Oldham East and Saddleworth, and she co-chairs the all-parliamentary group on dementia and is leading the debate on this afternoon. Debbie, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us here on GB News. From a personal perspective, my grandmother sadly had dementia. She lived with us in the last years of her life. Undoubtedly an horrific disease. What's your personal experience of this awful, awful disease?
Well, my mum had Alzheimer's disease. Dementia is actually a set of symptoms. So there are a number of degenerative brain diseases which are manifested in the dementia symptoms. So Alzheimer's, most people will be aware of, but there are many others. I don't know what form your grandmother had, but each one of those, and this is what I'm going to be talking about today, needs, if we're going to look at therapies, treatments, how best to care for people with the different types of dementia, then we need the research that's going to help with that. My mum was only 64 when she was diagnosed, and we know it's not actually it is the leading cause of death now in the country. So it's overtaken heart disease, it's overtaken cancers, and we, in comparison, it's not saying we shouldn't have all the investment that we need for these important health conditions as well, but by comparison, the investment in dementia research is very low. And what I'm trying to do is raise awareness about what needs to happen, and to make sure that we put dementia research on the footing that was promised back in 2019 during the general election. It was part of the Conservative manifesto pledge to double investment, and it's actually not doubled, it's actually gone backwards. So we need to address that.
Yeah, and very sadly, your mother was very young, of course, when she was diagnosed. This tends to be a disease that affects older people, much older people, doesn't it? But obviously, as many of us live longer, as you say, it is a disease that's getting worse in that sense, that more and more people are likely to suffer from it.
That's right. The prevalence is going up, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't just affect older people, although it tends to. We know we're hearing about people who have been affected because of, for example, sport. So one of the former England rugby players, Ben Kay, took part in the inquiry that we ran last year to look at dementia research, and he's aware, as others. We've heard from Nobby Stiles' family, Bobby Charlton, a hero of mine and my brother's, also being affected by dementia because of the sport that they've played and the trauma that this has on our brains, especially when we're younger. So it's so important to recognise all the different things that can contribute to that. It's not just about the ageing process and what we can do about it. So there's some really exciting stuff, Darren. So, for example, in around prevention, what the UK Dementia Research Institute and others, we are one of the leading countries around dementia research. But unfortunately, as I say, it has over the last few years declined, and we are developing biomarkers, blood biomarkers, which can actually identify when we might be in the very, very early stages of dementia, and then be able to develop therapies to hold that back.
And just very finally, and quickly, if you can, Debbie, just because we're a little short of time, is this largely about money? We know money's clearly key for research. Is there anything else that can be done in the immediate or short term as well?
So we want the government to fulfil their pledge of doubling research investment into dementia. We know that for every £1 of government money, we double that in terms of private investment. So that would mean if the government fulfil their pledge of 166 million a year, then we're going to be making about 16 billion, I think it is. Then we should be really, as I say, doubling the amount of private investment. We've seen over the last few years about the real excellence that we have in this country in terms of our life sciences research. We know we can do this. It's vital that we support people living with dementia and their families, but it's also going to put us in good stead in terms of our developing industries in the future.
Okay, really appreciate your time and your thoughts this afternoon. That's Debbie Abrahams there, the chair of the All Parliamentary Group on dementia, joining us down the line. Okay, it is 29 minutes past 12. You're watching GB News. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we've got an interview with the Labour MP Khalid Mahmood, and also we'll be looking at the situation in Hong Kong. But first, at the bottom of the hour, let's bring you up to date with the very latest news this hour.
It's coming up to 12:30. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has described what's happening with Ukraine as the biggest security crisis Europe has faced for decades. He added that it's not impossible something disastrous could happen very soon. He was speaking with the NATO Secretary-General in Brussels this morning before flying to Poland to reassure Eastern Europe it has the UK's support. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has been holding a news conference in Moscow with Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. She's urged Russia to stick by its commitments and follow a diplomatic route to ease Ukraine tensions. Former Prime Minister Sir John Major has accused Boris Johnson of breaking the law and making the government look distinctly shifty. It's after a new photo emerged in the Daily Mirror, reportedly showing the Prime Minister at a quiz night with an open bottle of sparkling wine. The Prime Minister says he won't quit if he's fined by police over alleged lockdown-breaking events. Pupils and teachers in secondary schools in Scotland will no longer need to wear face coverings in classrooms from February the 28th. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon announced the change at the start of First Minister's questions in the Scottish Parliament. At least 35,000 healthy pigs have had to be culled because of a shortage of butchers. The National Pig Association says more than 200,000 other pigs are being held on farms, even though they're ready for processing. They're calling on the government to make it easier for foreign butchers to get visas and for financial support for the worst affected farmers. The Prince of Wales has tested positive for COVID-19 for the second time and is now self-isolating. The 73-year-old attended an engagement with his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, yesterday at the British Museum. The Chancellor and the Home Secretary were also at the same event. TV online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. We'll have a full update at the top of the hour. Next, it's the briefing with Darren McCaffrey in just a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very welcome back to the briefing here on GB News. It is 34 minutes past 12. We're on TV, online and on your DAB digital radio. Thank you for your company on this Thursday afternoon. Just some two bits of political news in the last couple of minutes. That is that we here at GB News have confirmed that the First Minister of Wales, Mark Dreyford, has tested positive for coronavirus. Today, after taking a PCR test, he is isolating and working remotely. And also in the last couple of minutes, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has announced that pupils and teachers in secondary school will no longer need to wear face coverings from the end of this month, from February the 28th. Now, it's time for one of Gloria De Piero's interviews with MPs, where she goes behind the politics and gets to know the real person. This week, she talks to Khalid Mahmood, the Labour MP for Birmingham Perry Barr.
Khalid Mahmood, welcome. You were born in Kashmir.
Yeah.
How old were you when you came to England, and why did you come?
I came to join my father, who came in 1948, and his father and uncles before him in sort of pre-1940, around about 41, 42, because all of them were in the Merchant Navy. And my great-grandfather was also in the British Merchant Navy. So both in the First World and Second World Wars they served. They were taken off at Newcastle to work in the steel industry predominantly because there was a shortage of labour. And we still got half of our family up in Middlesbrough and half down in Birmingham.
So what decade were you at school? Was it a time when there was racism? Where did you go to school?
1971 in Birmingham. I started off at Conway School. I literally went in there for just a year because of the age I was at. I came almost 10 years old, and then went on to Golden Hillock School, which was my secondary school. And it was very difficult not being able to speak English properly. And really the primary school was just a blur, because it was difficult to try and get into the conversation of most of people. And these were no normal community schools, so I didn't go. At that time, there were special English schools which people were sent to, but those being phased out, and we had to go to normal school, which is quite good. It allowed us to integrate much quicker into the thing. And secondary schools, we had something called special English classes. A gentleman, a teacher called Eric Payne, was a teacher who'd served in India, so understood some of the languages, and so it was quite good to have a conversation with him. But we got through that fairly quickly.
You were an engineer.
Yes.
Tell me about being an engineer and whether was it quite a diverse workforce when you were an engineer?
Well, it predominantly actually BME workforce in Birmingham, Delta Metals, Delta Tubes. Where I worked, I was one of the few people who actually got an engineering apprenticeship in there that were from the BME community, and I really enjoyed it because it was a millwright, which is essentially nowadays a maintenance engineer. So I had a full apprenticeship doing that, and so you literally had the full run of the factory.
You were elected to Parliament in 2001, the first Muslim MP from England to be elected to Parliament. What did that mean to you?
It was a huge privilege. I think first Muslim MP getting through. I had a very long selection process. But really, what was really important about that is the amount of people that supported me was fantastic, both right from the local level to the national level. I'd worked within the Labour Party. I attended a lot of party conferences. John Speller, somebody who was still with us. Sir Richard Knowles, the leader of the Birmingham City Council. Bill Thomas is unfortunately no longer here, leader of Sandwell Council. Tom Watson was a great friend, and we still remain friends. And so there's a lot of people, Sean Simon, that we got in contact with. And so a lot of people that were there, we integrated. And I think that one of the key things is in the early 80s, we were there fighting against militant tendency. And so I was part of that. So that really integrated me into the Labour Party. And it was absolutely fantastic, enjoying that support and enjoying that camaraderie that we had.
Why was it important to you to fight against militants?
I think what we wanted to do was get our communities served. I think what I wanted to do was look at all of our people in Birmingham and what sort of service they were going to get. Any extreme was going to harm that. And certainly I think that's what it did. We had the National Front in Birmingham before that in the 70s, and we know what damage that did. And anything to the extreme left would have done similar damage. And that's why my politics has always been in the middle, is that I believe strongly in the Labour Party. I think the Labour Party serves all of us together. And that's where we want to be, in the middle, serving us all together and ensuring that we all grow together as well.
You listed your friends in politics, and one of those friends that you mentioned was the former Labour MP, Sean Simon. Now there's friendship and there's friendship. You underwent a kidney transplant in 2014. You received an organ from your parliamentary colleague, Sean Simon. How do you repay that?
Well, you can't. It's a phenomenal debt. To somebody... He literally forced it. We used to meet quite regularly. He was then a member of European Parliament. So we'd meet and have lunch or dinner every 10 days or so. And my kidneys obviously failed. And we were looking at what was going on and how we're going to deal with it. And he kept asking me what was going on. There was 2 other people we'd put in for transplant, but they weren't approved by the medical team. And he says, right, this is enough. Tell me who they are, who the doctor is, and I want to do it. And he just got married to Keris at the time. And I said, look, you've got a new family coming up. You need to ask them. And he said, no, just tell me who they are, and I'll get the rest done. So we met again, and I hadn't spoken to my consultants. He said, okay, give me the number, and I'll ring the consultant myself. And also, people say about politicians, he didn't want to capitalize on that for his election campaign. We kept it quiet for more than 3 years that he donated. And it was only then when the party at the party conference started to look at the organ donorship is something that's positive and we should do that. But he never wanted to capitalize politically from that, and that's how great he is.
On the 13th of April 2021, you resign from the front bench. I just want to quote back at you some of the words that you said. They're very powerful. You said the Labour Party had been taken over by a London-based bourgeoisie with the support of brigades of woke social media warriors. You said that the party had moved away from working class people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we got people who can't work from home, who can't work in front of a computer, who have to get up in the morning, whether it's sunshine or rain or freezing snow or whatever it is, they have to get up, they have to change into some clothes and go out, either catch a bus. Most of them have to catch a bus, by the way, and some of them in cars which might be polluting. Some of them just being able to get to wherever they need to get to. They get there, they do a shift, and they have to come back home again. And I think those are the people that are natural people for the Labour Party. The Labour Party, as you know better than I do, grew up in the trade union movement, representing those people who had needed a better work condition and a fair pay for a fair day's work. That wasn't, that's not what we looked at. We moved away from that. And that meant people like me, who are now in the workplace today, are not our natural voters. So that's hugely, I think, difficult for us. And the reason why we lose the red wall is we look at professional engineers, professional trained, skilled, trained people who should be naturally our people. And we've shunned away from them. And we do that through hugely London-centric bourgeoisie, which does look at that, people idealistic in the identity politics, and all those sort of things. Whilst it might be important to people in that respect, but the key issue is about how do we get on, how we support the most needy people, how do we support a family, perhaps with one mother who's trying to go to work and look after their children and to deal with that. How do you work with somebody who's got an ill parent, yet they've still got to go to work and do that? Those are the people that we should be supporting, because those are the Labour people. Those are people we should have.
Do you think enough is being done to win them back?
Well, certainly now I think Keir, I think he came to Birmingham and he gave a speech only a fortnight ago. I think he has managed to push the party into the right direction, and therefore I'm supporting him. There's still a lot more to do. I think under John Healey, in my last job as the shadow Defence Minister for Procurement, there's a lot more that needs to be done in industry. The government is still, whilst we got rid of Brexit, whilst we got rid of everything they wanted, still want to give contracts abroad to their mates rather than to British industry. So what we've got to do now still is hold the government to account and have more engineering, manufacturing jobs in the UK, because that's what will make us stronger. As Germany's at the moment, they rely hugely on engineering and manufacturing. If we're to get there, then we need to be stronger in engineering and manufacturing.
So since you're not on the front bench now, what are you dedicating your time to in politics?
Well, I started off when I came in 2001. We had a huge sort of change to the whole of our lives with 9/11. I was locked into a tribunal at the time. I was supporting giving a statement to somebody, so we locked off from everything. Came at 5 o'clock and found out that this had happened in New York. And it was absolutely unbelievable. You just couldn't think how that could have happened, how could that have occurred, and how people were able to fly planes into towers without regard for their own life, but people that they had on those planes as well. And somehow they'd been radicalized. And to me, it was my religion that was being used. It was Islam that was being used for this objective, whatever issue they had. And that's not the religion I've been brought up in. That is a religion of peace and submission, of supporting people, of understanding issues, and to dealing with that. So I found it very difficult to comprehend. So from that day onwards, I made one of my very first speeches on that debate in the House. And I wanted to move forward to say, this is not my Islam. This is not what I've been grown up with. This is not my father was taught me. This is not what we believe. We believe in working together with the communities and ensuring that we cannot do harm to any innocent person as an individual. Yet these people have no regard for so much of the lives that were taken.
How do you stop them being radicalised?
Well, I think what we've got to do still, and the reason why I left in the front bench is even now, almost 20 years later, we've still got people radicalising. We've got people who come into Parliament, who want to take young people away from the mainstream media, perhaps won't be listening to our program here, and would want them to listen to things that they put up on their social media platforms and other platforms that they have. So they're trying to nurture young people away from that. And therefore you get greater radicalization happening in those people. We got a number of issues from that. I pose the current issues on Islamophobia that people are raising. The reason why that is that it's giving a victim mentality to our young people. That if anything happens, you put it on social media, somebody says something to you on social media, put it up there. We've got to have the resilience within us as Muslims. We're going to be proud of the fact that we are Muslims. So we know less than anybody else. So we should not be in a victim mentality. But some of these people are trying to put young people into a victim mentality. That is dangerous for the community as a whole as well, because those people will have huge issues as they grow up into their own ability to do work and ability to have a normal life. So I really need to get them away from that. You know, we have Islamophobia Awareness Month. Why don't we have Islam Month, demonstrating all the good things that Muslims do, all the good things that Muslim people have done even till now. There's a heart of a pig being transplanted in the US by a Muslim guy. So, you know, there's huge achievements.
It's really interesting. So you don't like that phrase. You'd either celebrate Islam than fear Islamophobia, as it were.
That's right. But Islamophobia doesn't mean anything to anybody. So if you know, they say that when Boris mentioned the issue of the letterboxes, which is a silly thing to do, and absolutely, for somebody who is now Prime Minister, it's totally intolerable to do that. But people will say, well, the social media posts went up by 700%. What did we achieve out of that? Nothing. Nothing was achieved. So shouldn't we rather looking at resilience within our young people, ensuring that they can stand that and move forward, support them in that, but be an integral part of the community, as I've done, coming here at the age of 10, working with people. You know, I worked on the shop floor. People have a very rough language, if I can put it that way, to be kind, and say different things. But it wasn't about my religion. It may be that they think I'm a silly person, therefore they can say those sort of things. But it's not. I never took it as a religious issue. It was different people would say different things to different people.
I could explore this for so much longer, but we're out of time. Khalid Mahmood, thank you very much indeed for being open, honest, interesting and thought-provoking. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I think Gloria De Piero speaking at Khalid Mahmood. Now, last year the British government started a special visa scheme to help people from Hong Kong flee from China's crackdown on democracy. But under the changes, those under the age of 25 are not eligible. But could that now change? Well, there is an amendment to the Nationality and Borders Bill today that aims to reduce that minimum age. And our reporter Alice Porter has been looking at the story.
We're in a war. No matter how peaceful your demonstration, the police will use different weapons, just like tear gas, water cannon, rubber bullets. The only way we can do is protect myself with my own hand.
Ivan is 19 years old and is claiming asylum in the UK, worried he'll be arrested if he returns to Hong Kong after protesting against China's national security law.
After I've been arrived to the police station, I cannot see my lawyer. And when the interrogation is going on, they put a towel on my hair and put the water on the towel, and I cannot breathe. And the only thing to support me to do not say anything is I know that if I say anything, this maybe will use as evidence to persecute me. I don't want my next 10 years will be like this. Some of my friends told me I can come to UK and then in the morning, and then I just buy a ticket to this night and then leave, because I have no choice.
Exhibitions like these in London help bring Hong Kongers together, which is sorely needed for Ivan, as his family are too scared to contact him.
Right now, what the Chinese regime want to do is want to make Hong Kong become a part of China and destroy our language.
Hong Kong is not China!
Across the UK, there have been angry protests from the Hong Kong community against the Chinese government. Hong Kong used to be a British colony, so when the government saw China cracking down on protesters, they opened up a special visa for millions of people. But it's only available to people who were born before the handover in 1997. So for young people like Ivan, they can only apply for asylum, and there's no guarantee they'll be given leave to remain. But the amendment to the bill being debated in the House of Lords today would change all that.
It affects people who are about 18 to 25-year-olds who are the most likely to be probably arrested on trumped-up charges of sedition, which basically means that at some stage they were protesting, a right which people in the UK, of course, should recall they take for granted here. There it could lead to a loss of liberty for some considerable time and persecution afterwards.
We put Ivan's allegations of torture to the Chinese government, but did not receive a reply. Ivan's currently waiting for a decision on his asylum claim. He's unable to work or study in the meantime.
I just want to be a normal person again, just like a normal 19-year-old student.
Alice Porter, GB News.
Well, delighted to say I'm now joined by Benedict Rogers, the CEO of Hong Kong Watch. Benedict, thank you for joining us. I assume you welcome this potential amendment. Just give us a sense of what difference it would make.
Well, I very much welcome it, and it would make a huge difference to a relatively small number of people, and that's what's important. It doesn't significantly add to the numbers. In fact, the numbers of people are already eligible if they have BNO parents. The difference this would make is that they wouldn't have to come with their parents. They could come by themselves, but then claim BNO status and be able to live and work here instead of being trapped in the asylum system.
And what is the situation in Hong Kong? It's not exactly been in the world's attention recently since that new law came into force. Just give us a sense of where Hong Kongers are when it comes to the relationship with the States.
Well, Hong Kong's freedoms have been rapidly, dramatically and systematically dismantled. Hong Kong has gone from being a city that was one of Asia's most open, one of its freest, had a high degree of autonomy, to now being a city that is under the direct control of the Chinese Communist Party, and one after the other, press freedom, democratic freedoms, freedom to protest, even now religious freedom, have been either dismantled or are very much threatened.
What would you say, Benedict, to those people, you know, who are uneasy with immigration, even from Hong Kong, and would suggest that, you know, actually they're not terribly keen on tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people moving here?
Well, I think I would say two things. First of all, we have a moral and historic responsibility to Hong Kong. But secondly, I would say that as a generalization, Hong Kongers are remarkably self-starting, entrepreneurial, talented people who will only benefit our country, our economy. And yes, they'll need some support to get started, but in the long run, they will be people who will really add rather than take from Britain.
Really appreciate your times and your thoughts this afternoon. That's Benedict Rogers there, the CEO of Hong Kong Watch, joining us from southwest London. OK, well, that is it for the briefing for today. Don't forget, Isabel Oakeshott is here at 12 tomorrow. Olin Foster, of course, at 3 tomorrow afternoon as well. I will be back, though, in a couple of hours with the latest political news and analysis with the briefing from 3 o'clock. Do not miss that. An awful lot happening, not least of all, of course, the Prime Minister's visit to Brussels and to Warsaw today. Up next, though, it is Liam Halligan, and he is on the money. That's all after the weather from the Met Office. I'll see you later.
Hello again and welcome to your latest GB News forecast. I'm Aidan McGivern. Windy day in the north and showery as well, but drier, brighter weather in the south. Feeling cold for all of us, certainly a contrast for southern areas with this cold front moving through. It is still bringing some cloud and outbreaks of light rain and drizzle to the far southeast for the time being, but that eventually eases away. And another weather front brings some fairly hefty showers across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England, and these showers will be falling as snow above 200, 300, 400 metres, accumulating snow for the Grampians above 400 metres, with some more persistent rain and sleet in the northeast of Scotland. Feeling cold here with a strong wind for northern areas, and that wind reaching gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour for southeast Scotland, the central lowlands, before the strongest winds transfer down the east coast overnight, perhaps affecting East Anglia by midnight. So local gales in the east, but clearing skies elsewhere. And under those clearer skies, with winds easing away from the east, a widespread frost. Temperatures in some locations, for example, for some snow-covered parts of Scotland, down to -5 or even -10 in some of the colder spots. But a bright start to Friday morning. Plenty of sunshine first thing, despite the chill in the air. 1 or 2 further showers for northwest England, I should say, for northern and western Scotland as well. But they ease later. It turns cloudier in the west through the day. But for the vast majority, well, 8 or 9 Celsius with lighter winds, feeling pleasant enough. Now into Friday evening, and you can see rain starting to move into Northern Ireland, western Scotland as well, turning to snow above 200 or 300 metres initially, and that rain accompanied by stronger winds. And that sets the theme for the weekend. At first, it's going to be wet and windy in the northwest, a drier start in the south, but the wind and rain reaches all parts later.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday.